Good morning and welcome to your weekend healthy chat. As always, I'm your host, Dr. Sara, and today we have a great show lined up for you. Our first guest today is Elizabeth Downing, and she is the Director of Development for the Hudson Valley, Rockland, and Westchester, New York chapter of the Alzheimer's Association. So good morning and welcome.
Good morning. Thank you, Dr. Sara.
Well, it's great having you on the show. So let's start. So tell me a little bit about yourself and what made you interested in this line of work.
Well, I have always been involved in nonprofits, initially as a student volunteer when I was in school, and have focused most of my professional career on assisting nonprofits and promoting awareness and developing funds and so forth to move things along and make the world a better place.
That's great. So for our listeners, tell us a little bit about what Alzheimer's, the disease, actually is.
Well, it's a degenerative disease that attacks the brain and causes dementia. Dementia refers to symptoms such as abnormal forgetfulness, problems with thinking and performing everyday activities.
And so now, what is the Alzheimer's Association?
Well, we are the world's leading voluntary organization in Alzheimer's care, support, and research. Our vision is a world without Alzheimer's, and we make that's our aim, and we make a difference in the lives of those who are living with it. We, offer a broad range of information and services for people with dementia, their families, caregivers,
Support groups,
absolutely, and health professionals as well.
Great. Now, how many people are affected by this disease?
Well, right now, over 5 million people currently have Alzheimer's, and that includes at least 500,000 people younger than age 65, and nearly half of the people that are over age 85. It is expected, the trend is rising, and it's expected that more than 16 million will have the disease in the year 2050.
Oh, that is awful.
In our territory alone, there are nearly 40,000 people living with the disease, which means that there are, as many as 80,000 caregivers who need our help.
Right, who need to reach out to you
Absolutely.
guys. Now, how do you know, speaking of caregivers, how do you know if someone you love is experiencing Alzheimer's disease? Like, what are the signs?
Well, we do know that memory often changes as you grow older.
Right.
And that is one of the particular challenges with this disease because it enables people to remain in a state of denial about what's really going on. But memory loss that disrupts daily life is not a typical part of aging. It may be a symptom of dementia or Alzheimer's. The association has identified 10 warning signs that can help someone know if they should be looking for a diagnosis. People with Alzheimer's often find it hard to complete familiar tasks, like they have trouble driving to someplace that has always been familiar.
Right, that they've been to a million times.
Exactly. Right. Managing their bills at home, having problems with words or names, like calling a watch a hand clock. Or, forgetting important dates and asking for the same information over and over again. When those things occur on a more frequent basis than just occasionally, it's time to look into a professional assessment.
Absolutely. Now, what are some of the greatest concerns regarding Alzheimer's?
Well, one of the most frightening behaviors exhibited by many individuals is wandering. There was recently a tragic case in Westchester County, and 6 out of 10 people who have Alzheimer's will wander. And that can be a real safety issue.
Absolutely.
It could be something simple, a person leaving their home to go to the grocery store, head to the post office, going for a walk and they just lose their sense of surroundings. Sometimes people can't remember where they are, even when they are in a familiar place. Depending on the severity of the cognitive impairment, some may not even recognize when they're in an unsafe situation, which is so scary in itself.
Absolutely.
And so we help to identify behaviors such as this and provide safe ways to address those concerns. We have different programs like Medical Alert and Safe Return. Comfort Zone is a comprehensive GPS web tracking system. And all of those things can be helpful when you're at the point where you do need to be concerned about those wandering issues.
Yeah. Now, I understand the number of Alzheimer's deaths is on the rise. What can you tell me about that?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, by 2050, as many as 16 million people can have the disease. Right now, it's the 6th leading cause of death in the United States. It kills more people than diabetes and more than breast cancer and prostate cancer combined. So this is a national health crisis.
Absolutely.
People are diagnosed, and another American develops Alzheimer's disease every 67 seconds, is what the numbers are now telling us. And deaths from Alzheimer's in the 10-year period between 2000 and 2010 alone increased 68%, which is just astounding. Part of the special concern now has to do with these numbers because beginning this year, more than 10,000 baby boomers a day are turning 65.
Wow.
As they age, 1 in 8 is going to develop Alzheimer's. So it's no longer their grandparents and parents who have it. They are the ones that are directly affected. Beyond the sheer numbers of the disease and its emotional and physical impact, the economic burden on families and the nation is going to be staggering. So this really is going to become the defining disease of the baby boom generation. This is the only one of the top 10 causes of death for which there is no way to prevent, cure, or treat it. And that's scary.
It is. It's very scary. Now, what programs and services are there available to those who are dealing with this devastating disease?
Well, our local chapter provides care consultations, support groups, early stage programs, educational programs, and various social programs for people affected by the disease and their caregivers. Through our national network, we also provide a 24/7 toll-free helpline, connection to a virtual online community for those afflicted and those affected by the disease, access to safety services, and also connection to information about clinical trials.
Very nice. Now, what are some of the programs and events that are coming up in our area?
We have a variety of early stage support groups and caregiver support groups, as I mentioned, in Orange and Sullivan County. We have ongoing monthly music social programs for people with dementia and their unpaid caregivers. Those are held in Goshen and New Windsor. We actually have an annual caregiver spring retreat, which is coming up on June 17th, and that's free of charge. There is a certain amount of free respite care provided, but our chapter serves 7 different counties, so there are a great many more programs and services available to people throughout the region.
And now, how would someone find out what these programs and services are available?
Visit our website. There is a ton of information, alz.org/Hudson Valley. And there we have a calendar of different programs and services, information, a link to look at the 10 warning signs so that you can get some basic information there, but also connection to people throughout the area that can be helpful in providing guidance and different information about other support services that are available.
Now, that's great. Now, how can people learn more about Alzheimer's and the Alzheimer's Association? Is it just through this website? Or
we also, as I mentioned, the 24/7 helpline. And wherever you call from, you will be connected to the most local office.
Oh, great.
So that number is 800-272-3900. And like I said, information on available programs and services, as well as other opportunities to make a difference. We have some events coming up that are, designed to raise awareness and funds.
Oh, great. What are those that are coming up?
Well, we actually have a gala event. It's called Wine and Roses. That's in Poughkeepsie on June 14th. Our guest speaker is actually a contributor to Chicken Soup for the Soul, Living with Alzheimer's and Other Dementia, which was just recently released. We also have a big event called The Longest Day on June 21st. And the idea is that people can participate in an activity of their choosing to honor someone with Alzheimer's from sunrise to sunset, because for a caregiver dealing with the disease, each day feels like the longest day.
Sure.
But June is Alzheimer's and Brain Awareness Month, so we really want to raise awareness. People can
get the
also
word out there.
exactly. People can also do that by joining us in the fall in the Walk to End Alzheimer's. You can make a donation. You can advocate for our cause. We are constantly encouraging local and federal officials to make Alzheimer's research funding a priority so that we can find a cure.
Especially with those statistics. Absolutely.
And it's incredible. And it's, like I said, it is a health crisis and something that we really need more support from everyone who is beginning to recognize signs, recognize those that are affected by it in their community, not only in their families.
Well, great. Well, we really appreciate you being here with us today and really getting the word out there. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
And if you just want to list the website again, just to have it.
Absolutely. Visit our website at www.alz.org/Hudson Valley or call us at 800-272-3900 for more information on what we've talked about with Dr. Sara, available programs and services, and opportunities that you can help us make a difference.
And I hope you do. And on that note, we'll be right back after this. Welcome back. And now I'm here with our second guest today, Heidi Nyland, who is the assistant principal of Port Jervis High School. So good morning and welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Well, I just want to say welcome to the show, but also congratulations on being awarded the 2014 New York State High School Assistant Principal of the Year. So congratulations.
Thank you. It's a very large title. It's a very humbling title.
Yeah, but that's amazing. Now, before I continue, what's the role of assistant principal in the school system?
Well, I was thinking about just the day that I've had so far, and on the outside, everybody, of course, sees the assistant as the disciplinarian, and that is certainly, a portion of the day that we have. And some days we have none of that, which is wonderful. But on a regular basis, I also try to monitor my students' attendance and their grades. I do perform staff evaluations, teacher evaluations, monitor evaluations, guidance counselor evaluations. We split them up amongst us. I love to be in the hall, so I try to be in the hallway and in the classroom and supervise the cafeteria as often as possible.
That's great.
And I also do small things, running student elections and working with assemblies and chairing the 504 committee meetings at the high school level. So
you sound like a busy woman.
It's busy.
But I'm sure very rewarding as well.
Absolutely.
So what motivated you to get into education in the first place? Like, did you always want to be an educator?
I actually always knew that I wanted to work with adolescents. So I went to school for sociology at first, and then I looked into being a probation officer. And as soon as I graduated, my college that I went to, Wagner College, they offered me a position as a graduate assistant.
Oh, very nice.
And there were two programs. It was business or education. And I said, well, I would prefer to stay in somewhere in adolescence. So I went to get my degree in education and graduated from Wagner with my master's in education and went to sub at my old high school. And a week later, I had a job.
Wow, that's
Someone
great.
was moving. So it really all just fell into place. And certainly the call from Port Jervis kind of fell into place as well. So I've been very blessed with opportunity.
And how long have you been in the area?
I've been at Port Jervis for 6 years now. This is my 6th year.
Well, that's great. Now, I know according to the criteria for this award, winners are seen as showing exceptional commitment to not only the students, but the parents as well as the community. Now, is it difficult to have to answer to all three groups at the same time? Or how does that work? I'm sure it provides some challenges, especially being a pediatrician. It's very different when dealing with the children versus dealing with the parents. So I'm wondering if you run into the same thing.
I do, actually, and you compared it well with with your field, because I think that all of our decisions are made based on the best interests of the child.
Absolutely.
And none of the constituents can ever argue with that. They may disagree at the moment.
Right.
But in the long run, that is certainly, our goal at Port Jervis and at the high school is to keep the child our focal point. And that's a big reason on why I wanted to come to Port Jervis. I felt that immediately.
Good. Well, I'm glad to hear it. Now, I know Mr. Bon Jovi, who's the Port Jervis Superintendent of Schools, he said that he saw you as an outstanding leader from the day you were hired. Well, that's very impressive. So now what qualities do you think surfaced that?
I think they saw that I was confident and that my goal for getting into education was for the kids.
Right.
some might say it's for the money, as we all know, but it's certainly for the children. And when I left the interview, I still remember it clearly. I wanted to be in Port Jervis as much as I hope that they had wanted me. I remember thinking, boy, I certainly hope they call me back.
Right.
Because it was such a wonderful day, just meeting monitors and the clerical staff, and certainly Mr. Bon Jovi and Mr. Murata, and then central administration at the time, Mr. John Bell and John Exanthus. I felt
wonderful
that they were terrific people, and they cared about the kids and they cared about their staff.
Yeah, they definitely do. Being a graduate from Port Jervis High School, I completely agree with you.
And I think that, we always say that everybody cares about the kids, but all of my staff care about the kids, from the monitors to, of course, the teachers, the clerical. We lost a student recently to another school, and I had someone say, "Did you get in touch with that school to make sure she's okay?" And that was a monitor today, and I said, "I've been sending messages through any way I can, and hoping that the child knows that we're still thinking of her."
No, that's great. Now, I know one of the responsibilities you said that you had was the chairman of the 504 committee. Can you tell us a little bit about this group?
Sure. That's a parent or a teacher might request that a child have further consideration for perhaps some accommodations in the classroom or on test. So I hold the initial referral meetings as well as the annual reviews. Could happen 3-4 initial a month, could be no initials a month, and I do hold the annual reviews in the fall.
Okay.
So I can meet with the parents and the students
at the start of the school year
to see if something had not worked well for the child. In the high school level, it's a little different. I want the children to be comfortable with their plan. So if it causes more anxiety or isn't going to work for them, they're old enough to speak at that point on their behalf. So I try to have them, first of all, be aware that they have a plan,
504, right,
and to understand what it is, and that it's to assist them. So hopefully at the end of the day, it's working.
And what type of children do you have with the 504 plan?
It ranges. It ranges. It could be a medical, from a diabetic student to a child that experiences anxiety on exams.
I know we fill them out for ADHD.
Certainly. Certainly, absolutely.
For those of you out there who don't know, I'm a daughter of a school teacher, and I have come to understand through my mother that all students are not so easy to teach. Yet you've demonstrated an ability to reach all kids, even those who are described as difficult, indifferent, sometimes even combative. Now, what are the techniques that you use that enable you to do so?
I don't know that I have one certain technique. I always look at it as I try to follow through and follow up. If I say I'm going to do something to assist a child, I try to make sure I have my notes and that I follow up the appropriate people, because I can't answer all of their questions or assist on everything. But fortunately, I have wonderful people that I work with that can help me.
Good support staff.
Yeah, I'm not afraid to go ask for help, that's for sure. And follow up. I think the kids think that we'll forget to check up on them. But if I say I'm going to check on your progress in 2 weeks, I try to do it. If I notice that the children are not in school for a couple days, I try to call and say, I'm worried about you. I miss you. Is everything okay?
That's great.
So follow through and follow up.
And what kind of response do you get from the children that you call, from your students?
They're usually there the next day.
Good.
Just to say, here I am.
Yeah, everything's okay. I'm all right.
Yeah. So
that's nice.
Usually the response is good. Or if they're coming to school tardy, we'll make the phone call a little earlier.
Yeah.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Do you need me to call back in 5 minutes, 10 minutes?
No, that's great. That's great. And I know summer's approaching. Do you have any tips for how to keep the children and your students engaged during the summer, instead of just sitting at home being a couch potato?
Well, I don't know necessarily that I have any tips, but I certainly think that the kids have to stay active with their thinking or just reading.
Yeah, absolutely. Be mentally active.
Read anything you want for pleasure, your magazines, your comics, whatever it might be. Just keep thinking. I know that.
Yeah, stay engaged. That's always what I say.
That's important, especially at the small levels. Like you were saying, your mom is in education as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything you wanted to add before we wrap it up?
Just to say thank you to Port Jervis for certainly having me. They took a chance when I had almost no administrative experience. And thank you for caring about our kids in the manner that they do. it's unique. And as I previously said, a lot of people could say it, but our teachers
do it, right,
and our staff, like they truly will also follow up and notice things that we might not notice.
Right.
We don't know every child, but we try to.
Mm-hmm. And it's great to have everybody that works together and supports each other, even from the monitor level to even your level. Like, that's really nice to have that.
Yeah.
And it shows the kids what a great support network that is.
Yes, and they know that, when Miss Knight's coming after them, it's not a good thing. She's one of our monitors.
Yeah. So I know you had a story you wanted to share. So tell us a little bit about what you wanted to talk about.
Well, certainly we think that we're always making a difference, and sometimes it takes some time. I had a phone call this week where a student wanted to make an appointment, a graduating student who graduated 2 years ago, and she wanted to make an appointment to see me.
Oh, she had already graduated?
Yes.
Ah, okay.
I was a little concerned because she and I had our differences over time. I would call her. I would let her parents, when she wasn't in school, I would let her parents know if she was skipping school. And she had some trouble her senior year when was certainly academically bright. So we had an hour-long meeting on Friday in which it was wonderful. She said that I didn't know at the time, but Mrs. Nyland, I was using drugs, and I didn't know how much I was hurting myself at the time or how you were trying to help me. But she has been clean since September 21st of 2013. So,
how rewarding is that to have her come back and say that to you? I mean, that just must feel, to make that type of impression on that young individual.
Yeah, certainly. And that was my message to her as well, how proud I was of her for turning the corner. She had a rough 2 years since she had graduated from Port Jervis, but just that I wanted her to be that person for somebody else.
Exactly.
That she could make a difference, as she thought. And I was certainly honored that she came back to tell me that I made a difference to her.
And I'm sure you make a difference in many of their lives. So thank you so much. Well, I just want to say congratulations again for winning this very prestigious award. So congratulations, and thank you so much for being on our show today.
Thank you, and thank you for having me.
And we'll be right back after this. Now it's time in our show for our email question of the week, and this mom writes, Dr. Sarah. Now it's time in our show going into the sixth grade this fall, and this mom writes, Dr. Sarah, the school my son is going into the sixth grade this fall. What are the vaccines, and does he also need a physical? Stating he needs vaccines. Question. And what are the vaccines, and the local schools are sending out letters regarding vaccines for the upcoming year? And I'm happy to hear that the local schools are sending out letters regarding vaccines for the upcoming year. The first,